Welcome to Subject to Blackout. My name is Timo, and with me, as always, is Mike from the Name Taken podcast. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Tim. I'm trying to get bummed so we can talk about Predator. We're going to do that movie justice.
We are, if there's any weird, funky audio stuff, we are doing this pod live together for the first time ever. Normally, Mike is at his place and I am at mine. But Mike came over this evening because Predator was too good not to enjoy together.
It's classic.
Like I said, we watched Predator this week, the 1987, I would say action adventure / horror movie.
Yeah, it tries to capture two of those, I guess, what would you call them? The key trends of the 80s.
Yeah.
Which Arnold Schwarzenegger was a key part of both. Like the kind of sword and sorcery fantasy stuff and the Terminator action stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this film definitely, I mean, you can feel DNA of Alien in it.
Yeah.
You can also feel DNA of, the slasher fix of the period, like Halloween and whatnot.
Yep.
But
I mean, you can also see elements of Arnold Schwarzenegger's like every other movie. Commando.
Yeah, that's true. It's a very
Conan.
Arnold Schwarzenegger movie in hindsight.
Yeah.
But like I said last week during that pod, this kind of transitions him in between what he was, which was like a guy who was so muscly and impressive that he was just kind of put in movies, even though he couldn't speak English good.
Yep.
And instead, this transitions to the point in his career where he then starts being a leading man in more traditional type films, where it's just kind of funny that he's that muscular, like Kindergarten Cop and Jingle All the Way. And
that's true. Yeah, we were talking about this before we started recording, but this is a transitional period between like action Arnold movies and like dad Arnold movies.
Yeah. And you can tell that this is a McTiernan film, John McTiernan, and this is his second directorial effort. And I think you could tell that McTiernan trusted Arnold Schwarzenegger to carry this movie in a way where a lot of other directors might not have. But I think all of it turns out well. I think this movie, like we were talking about, we spoke about this film over dinner just before we started streaming this, and I think that like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his career wasn't like asked to do as much as he's asked to do in this movie.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Well, I just feel like, especially at the beginning, so this film opens, if you haven't seen it, this film opens, and it's basically like an elite command squad being brought in to find some lost diplomats.
Yeah.
And normally Arnold Schwarzenegger is kind of one of the like muscle background characters.
Right.
And in this one, he's put in the forefront as like the main lead of the film immediately, and carries those early scenes with aplomb. I was very much impressed. This movie has been osmosis into me through culture and through seeing snippets of it here and there. But this is the first time I've watched it from beginning to end, and I have to say it was pretty darn enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic. I do think that there's something to I mean, it sets up like a porn. This is sort of like violence or action porn in the sense that there's like 5 or 10 minutes of setup, which aren't really invested in that much. Like there's really not any world building or backstory, which is like perfectly fine.
Yeah.
To be honest. And then we just sort of get into like 90 minutes of like nonstop action in the jungle.
Yeah. Any backstory needed is dealt with by a severe high clasp in between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers.
Yeah, man, that was super masculine. It could have been the most masculine moment of the 80s. I've seen Commando.
This is the second week in a row where just meme after meme keeps spawning from the movies that we're watching. We just watched Willy Wonka, and that has like the aw shucks theme and you lose. And then this one, it has the two hands coming together, and it's got Carl Weathers with his arm being blown off.
Yep.
These are some meme-tastic movies, and there's a reason for that. That's because these are beloved films that many people have seen, and kind of we use them as shorthand for some things. I clearly not what we intended, are what McTiernan intended back in the day, with like the hand clasp meme becoming
Yeah, sure.
quite the popular meme recently. But no, I think this film, I was surprised. I was going to say this film holds up, and I want to specifically talk about like what they do with the Predator as far as sort of the design of that creature, and also the special effects around his like being able to be hidden in the jungle. Like for 1987, that is, you do a pretty darn good job of managing to make that like still kind of work today.
Tim, are you assuming his gender?
They call it a him throughout the entire film.
I don't think anybody asked. I don't think anybody asked.
There, it. We'll revise it.
They.
It's an animal.
Is it?
Yeah. I think that's fair to say that it is an animal of some kind.
I don't know.
It can breathe air.
Yeah.
I guess I don't technically know that it eats food.
It can laugh.
It can laugh and speak English.
It speaks English. Yeah.
It speaks English at the end. I'm not sure it knows what it's saying.
It can use tools.
Obviously, and it has technology and self-destruct buttons. Yes, so
it does.
I'm willing to go out on a limb and say it may not be a man, but it is definitely a human.
Yeah.
So what is sort of your history with this film? Because this is a film that you were very excited to watch, because I hadn't seen it all the way through. Is this was this something that you watched a lot growing up, or was this just something that you've kind of come to in your adult life?
No, I think
obviously this is well before our time. It's from before you were born, and depending on when in 87, it's from when I was born or after.
I mean, I think that this movie, I must have seen it when I was a teenager, but this checks off a lot of my boxes for a movie that is authentic in the way that it's ridiculous and unapologetic. Like you'll have movies that will be just as ridiculous as this, but will try and explain it as if like anything has to be justified. Movies like Commando, like Predator, like Snakes on a Plane, realize that they have a ridiculous premise, and that the commitment to the premise is not explaining it, it's just letting it get as wild as it possibly can get. So like I appreciate the authenticity of this movie as just being like a fucking ridiculous movie.
Well, I also think it's a fun movie. It's one of those few movies that like pivots mid-movie in between two different types of movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you have that opening scene where you speak about Commando, and there's also First Blood.
Oh yeah, sure.
There's a lot of these like what feel like Vietnam like revenge movies where like someone's thrown into a jungle and then they have to like kill all the people who aren't white. And that's how this movie kind of starts out, is they just kind of like, I mean, there's bits of horror at the beginning when they find the three corpses in the trees. And obviously I kind of wish the movie didn't open up with the alien spaceship, but that's fine, because it would be cooler if the Predator was just like, what the fuck is happening? But it's like, you kind of expect the Predator to come. But no, back to my original point is like, this opens up as a pretty traditional, like, shoot up the jungle type movie. And
yeah, sure.
Like that is something that you would expect more traditionally out of Arnold Schwarzenegger film. And there's this series of badasses that get thrown apart, badasses / governors of states.
Yeah, there are two future governors in this movie,
the Governor and Jesse the Body Ventura, for those counting at home. And then all of a sudden, like, after they kind of realized that they were not sent on a rescue mission, but sent on a mission to destroy like this. And again, it's not in Vietnam, even though it seems like it's in Vietnam. I guess it's in some South American country.
Yeah, it's in like Colombia or Nicaragua or something, somewhere where there are guerrillas that
were
the CIA
associating
were supporting.
with and
the
associating
80s,
with the Russians, because there are Russians at the site.
Right.
So they kill all those people, and they realize that they've kind of been fooled, and then like stuff starts adding up, and a couple characters start to realize like we're being followed or tracked. Some of the stuff that we've seen in the jungle doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and that's where it kind of transitions, I think, in that scene where, like, because it had been previously foreshadowed, like a bunch of guys who had been in a crashed helicopter just started shooting in the jungle indiscriminately, and somehow one of the characters knows that's what they were doing.
Yeah,
because he can like sense everything.
It's like a Native American. It's
it feels like a stereotype of Native American trackers. So anyway, they see that, and then later on they basically recreate the exact same thing by just firing indiscriminately into the jungle.
That's great.
And that's like the moment where it's like, oh, this is a horror film now. Like the guy who always talking about sex, that is one for one with someone who's had sex in a horror film. Yeah, so he's immediately killed. Yeah. Shane Black, who would go on to direct I think 2 years ago a different Predator movie, The Predator. But he immediately gets killed. Yep. They kill off both of the black characters. The girl lives and the main white guy lives. Yep. And that's pretty much it. And that's pretty horror movie trope type area.
Yeah, you need a couple people from the first movie to go on to be in the second movie.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's one of those, like I was saying, one of those rare movies where that transition to a different type of movie gets made. And that's what makes this film, I think, interesting even to today, 34 years later. Yeah. Is that it's not just, we just got done watching Fast and the Furious movies. And those are movies that even when they're at their best, they do one thing and they do it like 5 times in the movie.
Yes.
This could have been one of those things, like we have to shoot our way into this group and then we have to shoot our way out of this group, but like the transition, I mean, so much of this early part of this movie is just machismo and manliness and just a bunch of dudes being dudes.
Yeah, everyone's just like jacked in the fucking jungle. Just jacked 80s dudes in the jungle.
Talking about sex and dipping and, shooting guns. And it's just so heavily like 1980s masculine.
Yeah, Arnold's like, don't give away our position as he's like lighting a cigar.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Where like a guy is theatrically whispering like, if you're loud again, I'll kill you. It's like, you're being loud right now. But then all of that masculinity is just completely impotent in the second half. And all of the people who showed like those traditional, like manly shoot 'em up movie traits get killed off because none of that matters when facing off with the Predator. Yeah. What matters is your brains and your problem solving skills and your ability to keep, your wits about you.
Which apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger has.
Yeah. Who knew? I also did a little bit of research before watching the film, but we were speaking briefly about Shane Black, who also went on to direct a movie kind of sort of in this franchise. And Shane Black was, I believe, a writer by trade, not much of an actor. Mm-hmm. And I heard that he basically was hired because the script was not where like McTiernan or the studio wanted it. Okay. So he was hired to be a guy on set to write like one-liners and like quick little quips.
So is that where his dumb jokes came from?
Yeah, he's just like spicing up the script.
I know that.
I think one of his is the Jesse the Body Ventura line, like, hey man, you're bleeding. I ain't got time to bleed. Like he was just there to fill in the script and just make it like
my favorite actually Jesse Ventura line, and I hope this is where it comes from, is on the subject of chaw, like chewing tobacco.
Yeah.
Makes you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus.
Which makes no sense.
All right.
I've used tobacco products in my life, and none of them have made me a dinosaur of sex of any kind.
Yeah.
They've just made me feel slightly better than I felt before I started using them.
Like Gallimimus.
None of them made me feel like a Gallimimus. Not a single one. Yeah, no, I love that line. Jesse the Body Ventura is just
Awesome.
His goal was to have all of the best one-liners in the film.
He's also wearing an MTV shirt for whatever reason.
You wouldn't think Jesse the Body Ventura would be big into MTV.
So I don't think that's a military issue shirt right there.
Not well. When we get introduced to these characters, none of them are wearing military issue clothes.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's wearing a red polo, and then he has the audacity to go to a dashing Carl Weathers and be like, "What's with the tie?"
Right.
It's like, "What's with the red polo?" Guy in the middle of some South American country. Yeah, no, I especially like that. I love that the 2-star general was just immediately like put in his place by these two guys who I forget their ranks, but Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger are way outranked by this 2-star general, and he just quietly sits in the corner and is like, well, you guys figure it out. I'll just be over here.
Yeah, you guys are ripped.
I don't want to say anything to make you mad because you might murder me with your muscles.
One of the things that's interesting with the movie, I guess, is like you said, that it uses these horror tropes, and having like an ensemble cast where it's not quite like a bottle.
Yeah.
You're able to move around, but it's wall-to-wall emotional nuance. Everybody has to interact with each other and play off of each other. Is like basically how they're running the show. So it is interesting that they're doing like a horror movie out in the jungle. But on the other hand, there were a lot of like liberties and changes that happened through the course of it. Like people suddenly being able to speak English that did not speak English for the entire movie.
Yeah, right? That was weird. I was not expecting that.
So that was something that I thought was really funny. I kind of forgot that came into play. And the Predator itself is like an interesting thing. The first thing about the Predator that I'm actually not sure like who was the hunted and who is the hunter. If they had just like shut the fuck up and like left the Predator alone, would the Predator have gone after them? Because it seems like they were all just going after the Predator.
Well, I had a very similar question. I would say that the Predator instigates things by killing Shane Black's character.
Yeah.
Because he was not doing anything terribly threatening, and
he's just telling bad jokes.
That appears to be maybe he just didn't like his sense of humor. But yeah, no, that appears to be the inciting incident for everything. But yeah, I mean, my very similar question was if they had put down their weapons, because Arnold Schwarzenegger is convinced that the Predator isn't going after the woman because she's unarmed and she's not a threat.
Yeah, they keep making theories throughout the movie and they're all wrong. Like, oh no, if you have no weapons, it just like kills you really fast.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I was like, but it does not go after the woman as far as I can tell. But yeah, I mean, like, if you actually think that's how it works, why aren't you putting down your weapons and just being like, hey, we give up, we don't want to play? Like,
right.
I understand you're doing a thing out here, but like, I don't want to be a part of it. Because if that's what you really believe, then that's what you should immediately be doing, not unloading all of your magazines into the middle of the jungle at where it just was.
Yeah.
That's just me personally. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm weird.
I like the idea of everybody just sort of like suddenly shooting into the jungle, just like hating trees. Like, fuck these trees.
They downed some shit. That was also impressive too. Like, I don't know where they filmed or if they filmed on location, but it seems like a lot of that jungle stuff was filmed in a jungle.
Yeah. You know,
I kept looking for sets and I didn't see any.
No. There's one other thing that I noticed. I haven't watched this movie in several years, so this is the first time this is significant, but do you remember the name of the, like, so Arnold Schwarzenegger and his team are led to believe that they're going to like track down and rescue this like previous like strike team.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the person who they were going to track down, like the leader of the group?
Was it Hogan?
No, but that name. So I'm predicting the end of Stranger Things right now.
Oh, Hopper.
Jim Hopper.
It was Jim Hopper.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously,
timeline fits. 1987.
So
end of Stranger Things, dies in the jungle from the Predator.
I mean, that'd be cool.
Stranger Things Extended Universe. I'm calling it now.
And so the Russians were also at that site, and the Russians were the ones who picked up Jim Hopper at the end of the last season.
Predator's upside down.
I kind of want Netflix to get Predator rights to do that.
Right? Am I wrong?
No, I mean that'd be super fun. Wrong. So I did notice that. I forgot that it was Jim Hopper, but I was like, oh. Immediately, because so much of that series is just 1980s motifs. Like,
you hear someone say Hawkins at some point too, by the way. I'm just saying.
Maybe they were going to Sadie's Hawkins dance. I don't remember.
Hawkins, Indiana. Just saying.
You're just saying a lot of things.
I'm just asking questions.
Just saying is a trigger phrase for me. It makes me blind with rage. No, I think that would be super fun if you could somehow get Predator rights and just incorporate that. But like, he was like a Delta Force or Delta Strike Team guy who like everybody knew. Like everybody in that film was like, oh, I know fucking Jim Hopper, and Jim Hopper got skinned. Also, that'd be a fucked up thing to do to Jim Hopper.
Wouldn't that be tight though?
Basically next year,
fucking metal.
Like 11 has only had him as like a normal parental figure, and then you're just gonna skin him alive.
You don't know. Maybe he had to go out there to try and take down Predator because like 11 did some fucked up shit, and then he dies, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger is her new dad. You were. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger has to get her this action figure for Christmas, otherwise his wife's gonna be super pissed.
It's a boy in the movie. But back to
and he fights Sinbad.
Remember
that guy?
Yeah.
Sinbad?
Yeah, of course I remember Sinbad. Everybody remembers Sinbad. We all saw Blank Check. Was he in Blank Check?
I don't know. He was in Jingle All the Way.
He was in...
He was just around in the 90s.
He was. He was in a lot of weird kids movies, too. Yeah. Good for Sinbad. No, back to your Stranger Things theory. You were mad that I assumed the masculine gender for the Predator.
Yeah.
What if the Predator is 11?
That would be excellent.
She goes to the Upside Down and gets transformed into this horrific beast, and then all of a sudden she kills her own father.
I want this.
Turns him inside out.
I want this. Because that like Netflix is doing everything they can to fuck up Stranger Things by like focus grouping it right now. This is the best. The best way to end it is to make it brutal.
Yeah, I mean, that series is nice. It's not the greatest television going right now, but I mean, it's up against some stiff competition. But yeah, it does feel like, well, where does this series go? Like, how many more times can the Upside Down like come upside down?
Predator.
Predator is a definitive way to end that
good
shit.
Out. Yeah.
Well, I definitely think you're onto something.
I do too.
So
yeah, you're right.
Let's take a little break here, and we'll be right back with more. Next week on Subject to Blackout. After some discussion about our favorite campy proto-superhero films, such as The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, The Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas, and Tim Burton's Batman films, Mike demanded that we revisit The Phantom. Don't remember The Phantom? Well, The Phantom is a 1986 Australian-American superhero film starring Billy Zane. Don't remember who Billy Zane is? Well, he was the bad guy in Titanic. Still don't remember him? He played himself in Zoolander. He's a cool dude. Both Mike and I remember seeing this in theaters, but I honestly don't remember basically anything about this film, which makes sense because it was a box office bust, but has since developed a cult following. So if you'd like, please join us as we stream The Phantom for free on Pluto TV, as we see if this cult status is justified. All right, Mike. Well, we're back, and we just talked about 1987's Predator. Any final thoughts? I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I think this is a good film. I think this is a film worth watching. I think it is suspenseful. The second half is barely filled with dialogue. It's extremely entertaining because it takes you places you don't expect the first half of the movie to take you. I think Arnie's really great in it. I think Carl Weathers does the acting job of his career when his arm gets blown off.
Man, yeah, his blown off arm keeps shooting for like a while. It's like bang,
a minute,
bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
Rigor mortis set in immediately, and he just started firing well, he didn't. His arm started firing indiscriminately into the ground. But no, there is a lot of it that is super 1980s, like the two-star general just kind of plays a very 1980s authoritarian figure who comes in and then immediately backs away.
Right.
But no, I think this was a super fun movie, and I'd recommend it to anybody who has not seen it.
I mean, there are two things about this movie that, for me, make it really enjoyable, and they're also related to some of the big criticisms that I have of like the types of things that are coming out of streaming services now. This movie doesn't over-explain anything.
No.
We know that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers have a history, but we don't have to tolerate a bunch of different flashbacks throughout the movie to see what that history is, because it doesn't actually matter. It does not matter to the plot.
No.
We also like don't have a bunch of extended world building. There's no one that comes along and explains what the Predator is, because it doesn't matter. We actually don't need to know what the Predator is in order for there to be suspense or anything to be interesting.
Yeah, my whole biggest problem with the Predator is that I know he has an alien ship that sent him down.
Right, yeah.
Which is just knowing more about him. I don't need that.
Yeah. And yeah, so like I think a lot of stuff now, again, because it's sort of like focus group and because people in focus groups are all brain damaged, that like you assume that you have to explain everything, but the truth is leaving a lot of stuff out is what makes movies compelling and like creates opportunities for an audience to meet the filmmaker's vision with their imaginations more in the middle. And like this is a movie that allows that kind of relationship to take place.
Yeah, I was recently watching a Best of the Worst from Red Letter Media, and they were making fun of one of the terrible films that they were watching because every time a character went to a new location, they showed them driving to that location. They're like, I can fill that information in. Thank you. And yeah, this movie does not handhold as much as contemporary film and just bad film usually does. And I think that's a credit to McTiernan. I think so. This McTiernan series, if we can call it that, it's not going to be like Fast and the Furious where we're just knocking them out one after the other.
Right.
But I want to revisit as many McTiernan films as is reasonable over the next couple of months, because I think that guy might, in hindsight, be, like. There were always big name directors, but like there was the 90s and the 2000s where it was like, and it continues to today to some point, although the Marvel movies has kind of taken it over and moved it back. But it was like, you go see a movie because it's this director. And like I said, there
Jerry Bruckheimer,
Steven Spielberg,
90s, sure. Yeah. George Lucas,
dual Criterion collection, Michael Bay.
Yeah.
You would go see a movie
Tim
because
Burton.
like, yeah, I know this director. And I feel like in hindsight, like McTiernan didn't do a certain type of film, but like looking back on his filmography as a director, he didn't make bad movies. He made pretty darn good movies.
Yeah.
And I think, apparently he's a bit of an ass. He was in jail or is in jail for some non-sex crime stuff. So it's just it's just normal crime stuff. So he's not canceled. He's just in jail.
Yeah.
That's okay. But like I think he didn't have the greatest reputation in the industry, so people don't necessarily regard him in high esteem.
Right.
but I mean, he just makes bangers, and
sure.
For a second movie, this is 1987 second movie directed. This is polished. This is really, really well polished.
Yeah, it works. It works just fine, and we're still talking about it. It's still a fun movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also watched it in 4K with I'm assuming which is the streaming version of the Blu-ray upscaling from the original film. It looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Just looked beautiful, well shot, especially like when that helicopter is landing in the first couple of scenes.
Yeah.
And then they just like cut to outside the helicopter. The helicopter is entirely in silhouette, and they're all getting out and throwing out their bags and shit. Yeah. And then you just have Arnie lighting up the cigar while the sun's setting. It's like, wow, this is really beautiful for this dumb action movie.
Yeah, you know the part that I'm sure looks really good too. I forgot about mentioning this, but did it surprise you at all how easily Nicaraguan Contras could just like catch on fire?
Not a lot of people know. Not a lot of people know this, but Contras douse themselves in flammable chemicals before every single event.
Every single death was like a fire death.
Yeah. I didn't know there was that much to catch on fire in a Contra military camp.
Yeah,
but apparently there was
a rainforest where it's like damp.
And fortunately,
you just go up in flames.
Fortunately, none of the parts where either the one woman or the two hostages were, those parts were non-flammable. So that was good.
That's good.
It was good planning by Arnie and his crew. That's why they're the best. But yeah, I thought there was it was very funny to me how much exploded in that camp, how much
everything
immediately caught on fire, and then
the bamboo, the thatch, it all just like.
Oh, and by the way, they totally killed that other hostage. They're like, the other hostage is dead. Bang. They got to him. It's like you were shooting indiscriminately everywhere. You murdered that guy, and you're like, wasn't us. Like
that
100% was you. You were the only one shooting.
That was deeply American. I mean, the other thing that was deeply American was like, oh, there were like some CIA guys in here. Well, just scrub it. Scrub it. Make sure nothing's here. Clean up the evidence. Fine.
Yeah. Well, that was 1987's Predator, and if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. All right, Mike, is there anything else that you have been playing, watching, reading this week that you'd like to talk about?
Excited for the Skyward Sword HD remaster on Friday, but that's about it.
Is that a Link of Zelda?
That's a Link of, yeah, that's right, Mom. That's a Zelda, and it's the one that came out on the Wii before Breath of the Wild.
Gotcha.
It's like the anti Breath of the Wild. It's just like it's like very little exploring, lots of dungeons. It's gonna be tight, maybe. I did not finish it. It's like the only Zelda game I didn't finish because the motion controls pissed me off. But now here I am 10 years later. Even more of an adult. Got a lot of free time. Still don't have a job.
Well, you have a job next week.
I have not a job next week. But yes, I'm going to tear that up.
Yeah, as someone who has played one Zelda game. Well, two. I played the original Zelda.
You played Twilight Princess. The original Zelda is from like 1980.
I played the one that was on the original Nintendo.
Oh, you did?
Really? In the gold cartridge.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah. My neighbor across the street when I was growing up had it. So I don't even know if I technically played it. I know that I at least watched him play. I don't know if I played it. But I saw someone play that in person. And then I played the one that came out on Wii when the Wii dropped.
Yep.
And I never finished that. Right. And I got stuck in a loop that I could not get out of, and I never played the game again. So that's my experience with Link.
Yeah.
So have not played that game very much, or those games.
I mean, I would give you my Switch, but I'm not going to upgrade because the current upgrade option is stupid.
That's fair enough.
So, well, we'll find a 3-day. We'll find like a long weekend somewhere where we can just cram Breath of the Wild.
From what I've seen, it looks very complex. Very open world.
Yeah. You just run around.
Very intimidating.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. We'll
Prove
find
me
some time.
wrong.
All right. What have you been doing?
So I was on this leftovers kick, and I watched episode 1 of season 3.
Okay.
And
we talked about this last.
And that's where we left off. And I have gotten 0% further. I've been a little busy at work, a little busy personally, and I know that the show is ending, so I know I have to like pay attention, because however this very like intricately planned show is going to go, I know I'm going to have to pay attention.
Right.
So I have not wanted to do much of that. So I have gone back to what is currently my favorite mindless video game to play, and that's Steep, or maybe Steep X Games. I don't know what it's called technically. But it's just like you can snowboard or ski or paraglide, or like you have like one of those wingsuits where you fly down a mountain and shit. You can just like do that stuff, and you just wipe out ruthlessly, and it like they'll give you the G forces you pull, and sometimes it's fun to just go to the top of a mountain and just be like, how hard can I kill my guy?
I saw you play that a little bit.
It's a very like, it's fun because you can also like do like tricks, like there's like race courses on mountains and like tricks courses on mountains and all that kind of shit. But like really, sometimes it's just fun to be like, can I spin around 8 times before I land and not die? The answer is usually no. No, usually you pull like 150 Gs and you hit a sheer rock face. And then your body just tumbles. The in-universe like physics are very, I don't think they're realistic, because I think your body would stop tumbling faster than they do in the game. But the comedic effect of just tumbling, like falling for 5 seconds, hitting the ground, and then tumbling for 34 seconds is very funny to me. So I've been doing that a lot, just to kind of, blow off steam is a strong phrase, but just kind of like kill brain cells. But I have not been watching much TV. We could have talked about Loki. Just came out this morning, the series finale.
In an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, you've not watched, but as I've said, spoiler free, I thought the series was good.
I'm excited.
I think it's my favorite of the 3 Disney Marvel television series. Yeah, here's the thing though, is I didn't love Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There are parts that I really liked, but I didn't.
Fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. Yeah.
I think this is a little bit better than fine. I think it's good.
Okay.
And I was one of those people who was big into like the theory crafting of the WandaVision series.
Sure.
So I was like, man, I hope Mephisto comes. And really what got to me was I was 100% sure positive that this was going to introduce I should say Scarlet Witch was going to introduce the mutants into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yep.
And when it became clear that that was not going to happen,
right,
as someone who grew up a huge fan of the X-Men.
Sure, yeah, we had the cartoon.
Huge fan of the X-Men animated series. Yeah. I just want Marvel's hands on those toys so fast. And they're just like, that's not even in their next like 4 years of planning.
I know, yeah.
And it makes me so sad.
Yeah.
Because I just want to see Gambit with his stupid fucking gloves and his
stupid accent.
And his balaclava. And
he's gay. Did you know that?
What?
In canon, he's gay.
Cool.
He's a gay X-Men.
Sure.
He is. I'm just offering you information about Gambit.
You asked, did I know that? No, I did not.
Did you know that he's Cajun?
Yeah, okay. I got that.
Did you know that he's gay?
No, the Cajun accent overtook all of his sexual aspects of his character in the cartoon series.
It comes up. All right.
It didn't come up in the cartoon series. That wasn't on Fox Kids in the 90s.
They switched to like the Juggernaut. You don't see like the door closes and it's like, that's it.
Mon ami. Hey, where are you and Wolverine going? It's just some Fox Kids executive going, sir, the episode can't be over. There's still 4 more minutes. Yeah. No, I did not know that. It does not change the character for me one bit. I just want to see his stupid face in that stupid costume on the big screen.
Yeah.
Or the small screen, as the case may be.
Yeah.
But I want X-Men so bad. So bad. And I want a really short Canadian Wolverine. I want that too. I want the exact opposite of the last Wolverine that we got. He did a great job doing it, but I want a short, angry Canadian, hairy Wolverine.
I keep hearing rumors of like a chick Wolverine.
The girl who played X-23 is great. And if it's her, cool. Awesome. I'm here for it. But like,
why don't you just do a chick Cyclops?
Chick claps?
Yeah, why not? I'm down for that.
Yeah, sure. And then Jean Grey's a guy. It's Gene.
No, it's just like a really
Jean Grey.
No, like a dude rogue.
That's his name, Dude Rogue. What's your name,
dude?
What's your name, sir? Dude Rogue.
Like same hair. It's like a member of Aerosmith.
Listen, I'm not against gender equality or representation, but I just want the traditional blue and yellow Wolverine costume with the stupid facial hair.
Bring back that polyester.
Yes.
None of those sexy black uniforms from the 2000s.
If you give me one male Wolverine in that costume and then immediately kill him off and it's some girl, fine. It could be a girl for 20 fucking years. I'll be there for every single movie. But just one time, put him in that stupid fucking costume.
If they gave that franchise to Taika Waititi, he'd be down. He would do that in a second.
Oh my
Taika
God.
Waititi would wear that while he was directing those scenes.
Yeah. Like, my one problem, though, is, like, the X-Men series that Fox did.
Yep.
Filled with issues. Whole movies that suck ass.
Yep.
But, man, did they do a really good job of casting, like, most of those characters.
They did, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I can't...
The casting was really good.
Both Charles Xaviers are amazing.
Yes.
Both Magnetos are amazing.
Yes.
Logan's amazing.
Logan's great.
The second Sabretooth is great.
Yeah.
Jean Grey, fine. Famke Janssen?
Yes.
Perfectly fine. Cyclops is such a fucking prick in the first couple movies. It's perfect. Because
Cyclops is such a bitch.
You just root against him.
Yeah, fuck Cyclops.
Even though they did nothing with Storm, I mean, that Halle Berry is perfect in the role.
Yeah.
As soon as they stopped giving her stupid lines like, do you know what happens to a frog when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else. It's like, yeah. That's not a one-liner. That's just stupid.
We should watch Batman and Robin for lines like that.
Holy Rusted Metal Batman.
Nice to meet you.
Joel's... I heard this theory, and I have to give credit to someone on the latest Fat Man Beyond podcast with Kevin Smith. Mm-hmm. But they said that, have you heard the theory where the first 2 Batman movies with Michael Keaton are the real Batman, and then he sold his life rights, and the 2 Joel Schumacher Batman movies, or is it 3? Is it 2 or 3? I think it's
2. No, it's 2.
It's 2.
Batman Forever and then Batman and Robin, and then they decided to reboot after Batman and Robin.
So those 2 films are in universe the Batman movies that were made about the actual Batman who is Michael Keaton.
That's fair enough. will that be? Yeah,
that's pretty funny. It makes no fucking sense, but it's like a way to justify how ridiculously campy those movies get.
Michael Keaton shows up as old Batman, right? And
he will be showing up in Flashpoint, I think.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
At least that's the rumor. Everybody's going for a multiverse. Spider-Verse started it, and now Marvel's going into the multiverse hard, and obviously Warner Brothers has no idea what they're doing, so they're just like, oh, these 8 different movies, it's a multiverse.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right, Mike. Well, that just about does it for this episode of Subject to Blackout. For those of you listening and watching along on this inaugural streaming session, hopefully the audio is all right. If not, you can always head over to subjecttoblackout.com, reach out to us, complain about the audio quality or the fact that the mic is shaking ridiculously because Mike just kicked my extremely flimsy coffee table. You can reach out to us there on all of our socials, including Instagram, Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also feel free to rate, review, and subscribe on any of those. And lastly, you can find Mike on Instagram and Twitter at Nametaken Podcast. And Mike, I want to thank you for joining me this evening.
Cheers, Tim.
All right, have a good one.